Welcome back to the Collegiate Hearthstone National Championships. We are ready for match number 3, the final match of the day, but not the final match of the week because we will be back tomorrow with 3 more matches. My name is Cora Georgiou, and I'm joined on the desk by Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora. The first of many weeks we'll be able to cast together, and hopefully one of those weeks can be even better than Sack Pack on a Jiraxis that was intentionally in your deck.
It's going to be tough to top, but it's definitely possible. There are some great decks out there that have a lot of potential for incredible tech cards, but that's one of the most spectacular ones I've seen in a long time.
Well, we've also seen some Control Warrior. We've seen some Dragon Warrior today. I mean, there's a lot of different variants that we can see over the next few weeks that I'm sure we will. Let's go ahead and take a look at our final match of the day. It is going to be University of Utah taking on Central Washington University. And speaking of interesting classes, I see one we haven't seen right here.
Yeah, no Warrior in the lineup for either of these teams. Instead, they've chosen to bring Druid on the side of Utah and Priest on the side of Central Washington. And this is a really interesting choice. These decks are often thought to be sort of the 5th deck or the 6th deck, maybe, in some lineups. But we did see Life Coach finish at 5-2 at the Europe playoffs this weekend for HCT, and Dr. Hippie had brought Priest himself, and he was the runner-up at the World Championship. So if the time is right, the time is right. Those players had faith in it, and they are 2 monsters of the game.
It's good enough for Dr. Hippie. It's good enough for me. Let's put it that way. Let's go ahead and take a look at our first team. It is University of Utah, Zhu, Funny Guy, and Sneaky Turtle, undeclared computer science and biology. We actually saw these guys on the first week of the broadcast. Kibler was sitting in your chair, so no pressure, but we are going to be able to see them again today. And here they are in their matching garb. People in the background, I actually believe that this is a fireside gathering that they're playing at.
Wow.
So that is really, really cool.
That's super cool. They got a fireplace and everything.
I mean, they are beside a fire. They're gathering together. If it's not aptly named, then I don't know what is.
Shucks, I'm jealous. Wish I had a big group of friends to play Hearthstone with.
Admirable, what do you think is the best way to make some friends in Hearthstone?
Not really sure, to be perfectly honest with you. Not really sure. I'd ask some people to play, you know. I'd make sure I was inside while I was doing it. It's hard to play Hearthstone outside. The sun is shining and stuff.
It's true. Taking a look at our second team of the day, Central Washington University, Saltman, Alpha Hydra 1, and Dylan. Computer science down the line, Admirable.
Yeah, I'm really liking Alpha Hydra's outfit here. It looks like a winter steampunk soldier.
I like the goggles. I think they're a nice choice.
You a big fan of goggles?
I mean, when I'm swimming. I've never been skiing, but I imagine they would be good in that instance as well, as I believe Alpha Hydra would agree. And here we can see those guys. Doesn't seem like they're beside a fire, but technically the 3 of them are gathering together in a non-official context. So still looks to be a great group of guys.
Once again, the School Spirit Award. I mean, you know who it's going to here.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, but okay, if you had to put Utah up against Duke, who gets it then?
That's a tough call. But that's what the sake of the competition is for.
The competition we invented.
Love to see everyone bringing that school spirit and really representing. So the bans here, very apparent to be different. For University of Utah, they want to take their mage away, and it's the fear of that priest. Priest is oftentimes very strong against mage. The value it presents against Reno Mage specifically is a little bit too much for Reno Mage to actually come back from. And on University of Washington side, Central Washington University side, the Warlock deck can be taken out here. They're fearing the Druid build from University of Utah. That is a match that is very close to unwinnable, and then also the Shaman can bring some heat as well. So cutting out that Warlock, not an unwise choice, but it's kind of middle of the road. I think the fear of the Druid is what's causing that.
Yeah, and Central Washington still has to potentially play the Reno Mage versus the Druid, which it's a tough matchup for the Reno Mage.
Yeah, it could be a Tempo Mage still, and that completely changes the situation. We've been seeing that get a little bit more popularity as of late, and it had some great performances at the EU Winter Playoffs this weekend. I believe it was Green Sheep who made it through the top 4 and headed to the Bahamas, thanks in part to that Tempo Mage.
Well, good on Green Sheep. He's always been a fantastic player, and now he's also making those strong meta calls. But first off, everybody's favorite matchup. I use that sarcastically.
I really like the matchup, personally, because it often turns into a micromanagement battle where the use of your resources dictates a large portion of these games. This isn't as simple as playing on curve and just beating your opponent over the head senselessly until they're on the ground. A lot of times it boils down to using your resources very meticulously and finding edges through timing. But here, Utah, it looks like they're actually bringing a mid-range Jade Shaman. Mid-range Jade Shaman. For some reason, I thought I said Druid to this matchup, and that's a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually mentioned this earlier. We haven't seen any mid-range Jade Shamans today. This is the first. But with cards like Lightning Storm, which you see in hand, Hex, which can remove the Flame Wreath Faceless very easily, Jinyu Water Speaker, and then the ability to build bigger and bigger Jades than the aggro Shaman, the mid-range Jade Shaman, if it can keep up in the early game, has all the tools it needs to win this matchup.
Yeah, and with Spirit Claws and Blood Mage already in hand, and a Lightning Storm to clear up a little bit more after that, it looks like Utah has the tools to actually get through this early game. To me, the kicker in this matchup is the Sir Finley Murgleton in Central Washington's hand. If they land a strong hero power off of this, this could be lights out. Life Tap would be the magic one. Steady Shot looking like a close second.
Yeah, Life Tap obviously gives you more resources in the long run, which can add up to more damage than the Steady Shot. But this is about the only time you're going to see Rexar nowadays, so he's here in spirit. It's all we can hope for.
Puffin just got added to the design team.
Yeah, I did hear
as
that.
well, and he's a big Hunter fan, so I'm expecting a Hunt Wreath Faceless.
As big or bigger than Rob Wing? Who is the more loyal Hunter fan? Now
Chalky.
I throw Raven into the mix. Who wins that one? Chalky? Chalky. You heard it here first, folks. Nobody beats Chalky.
Not a Hunter. That guy's a great Hunter player.
Absolutely.
He just gets it. I don't know what it is. He beats me every time we play Hunter.
Granted, you enjoyed Doomsayer into Wolf Rider, but that's a conversation for another day.
Those are usually when I win.
That's a conversation for another day, because Central Washington has 2 mana to deal with, and it looks like they have 2 options.
Yeah, Totem Golem is by far the stronger of these options. It's the most difficult one for Utah to remove, and it's the least flexible one in their hand. Jade Claws, at any point it comes down, is delivering that 2 damage instantly, and the 1/1 body currently just challenged by the Spirit Claws that Utah has on board. And so Totem Golem, I think, is the option that's most likely to pull damage here.
All right, so going with the Totem Golem. At this point in time, just wiser to get more stats on board while you have the chance. And Utah's hand is, well, it's a bit heavy.
Yeah, Totem Golem is always the card that's problematic for the early control builds. It typically takes 2 actions to completely wipe it out. And if that action is a weapon, that adds up to a lot of damage. So with the start that Central Washington's had, they do need to be careful in how they approach this. Needs to be taken care of fairly soon, but they also need to make sure they don't overstep their boundary and fall way too far behind because of that.
So Utah does have the option to play the Blood Mage Thalnos this turn, and then run the Spirit Claws either into the Finley or even potentially into the Totem Golem, setting up for a 2-turn kill. Which line of play do you like from them?
Well, I also don't mind just using a hero power here and maybe poking at the Totem Golem. You have Blood Mage and you have Lightning Storm, and every single time that they use hero power, that is something that Central Washington has to think about. So, in effect, the hero power is offering them an extension of their life total. They don't necessarily have to take care of anything this turn. But the Blood Mage is totally fine. They are going to whack away at the Totem Golem here and set up for that Lightning Storm. This should definitely be a heads up for Central Washington here, too. I mean, they might actually not have to play anything in this spot and simply start weaving in hero power. Their hand is very flexible where they fit it in, and if they simply pace themselves here, I think that's going to be their best chance.
I mean, honestly, at this point, Washington may not know that Utah is playing a more mid-range build. All they've seen so far is Spirit Claws and Blood Mage Thalnos, which are certainly in both versions of the deck. So if they're playing, assuming that their opponent is going to be aggro Shaman because it's more prevalent in the meta, they're not playing around Lightning Storm.
Yeah, the thing is that the Spirit Claws does play into Maelstrom Portal as well.
Yes.
So while I do think that they don't have necessarily a read right now, the fact that their opponent did have just Spirit Claws and Blood Mage, something might be up. I mean, where are their pirates? Where is...
That's true. Where's the Tunnel Trog and the Totem Golem?
Instead, it's been very defensive. So there is, I think, a lot more merit to just considering the hero power here. And again, it's just because their hand is so flexible.
All right, well, they are going to go ahead and get down that Jade Claws. try and preserve their board by not attacking with the Finley and using the steady shot. So Utah can get a full clear here with that Lightning Storm.
Yeah, I think that their eye may just be on the Jinyu Water Speaker, though. They can pay just a couple more points of life and take out the Totem Golem, and then that 3/6 body is going to contest the rest of what's there. And since they just drew Hex, it means that Flame Wreath Faceless isn't even a big threat to them here. So I think Utah has plenty of options for how they want to approach this.
Yeah, if they go ahead and coin Jinyu, then that leads them into potentially a Lightning Storm on the following turn if Washington is able to reload, or even just a Mana Tide Totem if Washington isn't able to.
Yeah, they might just get the Jades rolling at that point too, which they're actually going to do that now. And I don't have a problem with this either. If they use the Jinyu right now, it tells Central Washington that they're playing a defensive deck. And while the Jade says that as well, maybe at some point Central Washington feels like they can go for the throat and have that Jinyu Water Speaker completely disrupt that plan. That's the power of a healing spell. It isn't necessarily just that it's a heal and extend your life total, but if you can catch someone trying to make a push and then you stabilize with healing, that could end the game.
It is important to note, though, that the Jinyu is a 4-mana 3/6 Overload 1. So if they had coined it out this turn, they would have not been able to play the Jade Spirits on the following turn, which would have potentially made their next sequence of turns a little bit weaker than they would have liked. By going Jade Spirit this turn, they can potentially Jade Spirit again on the following turn.
Yeah.
And then that opens them up to a stronger sequence of events leading into cards like Aya Blackpaw, Jade Lightning, Jade Claws, even if they get it. So this simply gives them stronger board presence and stronger capability going into the next several draws.
It's even pulling a Lightning Bolt here, so the Jade Spirit even just acting as more healing. The Jinyu Water Speaker would have just simply prompted Central Washington to push damage to face. They wouldn't have been able to answer this turn. But now the Jade Spirit, since they're threatening the board, are acting as healing as well. So Utah getting a lot more mileage out of their cards than I think they would have if they'd simply played Jinyu Water Speaker.
And Devolve coming into Utah's hand. This is a card we had mentioned earlier, but we have not seen yet today. Deceptively strong.
Yeah, now that being said, Central Washington is putting together a lot of damage here. So even through Jinyu Water Speaker, they may be able to make a push. I mean, at the end of the day, it is only 6 health.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, Utah's at, 21 right now? Central Washington has 5 potentially with Weapon, Hero Power, and the Finley.
Just with what they have here, if they used all of these just once, that's 17 damage. That means they're 2 Hero Powers away from winning the game.
Yes.
And so for me, if I'm in Central Washington's spot, it's a matter of how do I get in as many Hero Powers as I can? Because they're not in any danger of dying to the push from Utah.
Well, I mean, in this case, you can hit with Jade Claws, Hero Power, put up that Spirit Claws, run in with that deckhand. I mean,
there's still patches in here too.
Yeah, and then you're not overloaded on the following turn either.
Right. So then you get to use the Jade Lightning and another Hero Power. Then you get to use Lava Burst, another Healing Power. This foregoes a Hero Power, isn't directed at face, and is now starting to cut into their damage potential.
I don't know. I mean, Washington... So obviously we know that Jinyu is in hand. Washington thinks that Utah is at 15 and is going to stay at 15. Well, now 14. So maybe they think that they have enough damage despite trading some into the board. But even in that case, if you can close out this game in 3 turns,
I mean, it's
a nice prospect.
This still puts a lot of pressure on Utah. I mean, no matter how you slice it, they're going to have pressure. The only thing that I can think to really mention to that is sometimes you have to recognize your opportunity of, can my opponent win even if they do have checks to what I have? Central Washington is pressuring in a much different way, and they're actually going to buy some additional damage from that Jade Lightning and from that Lightning Bolt now. But now they draw patches, and that hurts quite a bit. But still, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They have 14 damage if they just use everything here once.
One time.
And that steady shot comes turn after turn after turn. So they're like 3 turns off of killing, even if they draw completely dead from this position.
Which it's very unlikely that they will. They've still got plenty more burn in the deck. It is rather unfortunate that they drew the patches. Had they gone with Spirit Claws, Hero Power, Southsea on the previous turn, then they would have had an additional draw on this turn, which could have been a Lightning Bolt or a Jade Lightning for all we know.
That few extra percent, most of the time I would advise not worrying about drawing patches.
Yeah.
But I think they just had an opportunity to make a very strong push in this spot and force Utah to have multiple healing to pull out of it.
Well, regardless, Washington is still not in a bad place. It looks like they're just going to go ahead and play out their hand.
Yeah, there's really no battle for the board left. It was a fairly weak turn for Utah. This is it. And honestly, I'd get the patches in there too, unless it doesn't make a difference in terms of the math. So with Lava Burst and 3 hero powers, they are 1 damage off lethal. So if they run into just big taunts turn after turn,
Searing Totem, not really what Utah wants to see.
nope, they want Taunt Totem every turn for the rest of the game. And oh, Blood Mage gets drawn, and that will provide a heap of damage. Utah has to draw healing, or they're going to lose the game.
That's 1 mana off lethal, I believe. It's 6 from the Lava Burst, 7, 8, 9 Spirit Claws, 10, 11 Steady Shot, 12 with the patches. That's 1 mana off lethal. If they'd played the patches earlier, they would have won this game this turn.
Yeah, Central Washington may have just forgotten about Blood Mage as part of the draw. Here, though, I still think they should be using the Blood Mage and the Lava Burst. Forego the patches again. It's less damage than your Steady Shot. It's less damage than your Blood Mage. And one of the reasons your Blood Mage is more damage is because you have the Lava Burst. So I think I'd like to see them use those cards this turn.
Now this does give Utah the opportunity to draw the second Jinyu Water Speaker.
Yeah, or a Healing Wave. I mean, if they draw Healing Wave, that could lopside the game suddenly. Now
Usually
that 1 damage that was missed could be the difference in winning and losing. But it comes down to a single draw. Utah has to have it now.
All right, let's see what they've got.
You know, Central Washington was likely doing the math on whether or not they died to, like, Bloodlust or like, multiple Flame Tongue Totems or just anything from Utah. And the answer to that is just simply no. And with no healing drawn, that's going to do it. Central Washington locks up a quick game number 1.
Unfortunate for Utah, considering this mid-range Jade Shaman is pretty well equipped to take down the aggressive Shaman build.
Yeah,
and
you do have to have the
out.
right resources. And in this game, they didn't. Central Washington got a heavy lift from Sir Finley Burgleton. And that card been a staple in the aggressive builds for quite some time now.
Yeah, I mean, over the course of these turns, that Steady Shot did, what, 8 damage? It was essentially dropping a 1-drop for a Mountain Giant to face.
Not
I mean, that is
too shabby.
That's pretty strong. 1 mana, 8 damage. It's not bad.
It's about as good as it gets. I mean, I don't know too many 1-drops that get 8 damage. You know, Undertaker, sometimes Mana Worm.
Patches 8 times.
Yeah, Tunnel Drog. Yeah, Ganged Up Patches, that'll get damage.
All right, well, Central Washington University taking game number 1 on the back of their aggressive Shaman against University of Utah's mid-range Jade Shaman. We will have to see that Jade Shaman again if Utah is going to win this series. But now it's coming down to Central Washington University's Mage and their Priest. How does the Priest line up against Utah's lineup?
The Shaman may be a spot where they have an opportunity to really seize board control and take it from there, but Warlock and Druid are both typically going to be unfavorable matchups for that. The Warlock, pretty substantially unfavored. The Druid is a little bit closer, but I think that's going to be the spot where they potentially struggle with this lineup. If it was a Warlock instead, I'd still tend to say they're going to struggle a little bit, but something to really think about is this isn't your standard aggro Shaman. This is a mid-range Shaman, and if they can put together the right tools to tempo you in the early game, it means that they're going to find themselves buying a lot of value.
All right, so game number 2, we are going to see that Priest from Washington, and it's lining up against Utah's Shaman deck, which if Washington has a really nice early curve, they could blow out this game.
Yeah, they're starting off strong with Wormrest Agent, and honestly, I think there is some merit to just hanging on to Blackwing Corruptor. They have the coin, so it's accessible as early as turn 4, and it's one of the only ways that they directly answer Mana Tide Totem without giving up a turn. But they mulligan into a Twilight Whelp and a Blackwing Technician, so their curve is massive starting from here. And early curves, easy way for Central Washington to run away with games.
Yeah, this was an incredibly intelligent keep for Central Washington, choosing to keep not only the Wormrest Agent, but the Azure Drake. The Blackwing Corruptor I can also, like you said, see merit to keeping in the opener, but if you don't draw dragons, your early curve is pretty much dead.
Right. The whole thing behind it, too, is if you're keeping a Blackwing Corruptor, you're probably keeping Azure Drake as well to ensure that you have a turn 4 and a turn 5 play. But the early curve, definitely a big benefit, and so their risk pays off.
Yep, Washington can go 1, 2, 3, coin 5, and they even pick up Holy Nova for board clear.
It's looking good. Now, there is a totem here that may make this look a lot worse.
Searing Totem.
Yes, exactly
Healing
the one I was
Totem
thinking of.
makes it look a lot worse for Utah.
I guess there are multiple totems that make...
Stoneclaw Totem.
Wrath of Air Totem is the one that Utah wants right now. And I don't think there's that much debate around it. It's hero power here and go. But they're taking their time to give the illusion of options. If you just speed through your turn, it's very obvious that you had nothing else to do. And so they want to give Central Washington the idea that they had more. And with Cabal Talon Priest drawn, I think we're seeing a coin.
That's a good card.
2/6 Twilight Whelp is going to be awfully hard to deal with. That will make sure that Utah's totems are checked for a very long time.
Doesn't even really throw off the curve because Washington could Talon Priest this turn, then Blackwing Technician on the following turn, and then Worm Rest plus even Hero Power on 4 if they have to.
Eventually, you're going to fight against something on board. So I think I like the Talon Priest now. Strengthen your board position immediately. You found your earliest punish, and every single turn, that Wrath of Air Totem is going to threaten some value. And so this is likely one turn, I think, where you can strip some of that away.
And honestly, what are the chances this draws a Hex from Utah? A Hex on a 1-drop.
It feels very low, but I won't count it as an impossibility. I think if they use Hex now, though, their turn 4 and their turn 5, they're likely to just completely fall out of the game. And it's these kinds of starts that actually give Central Washington the most power, so kudos to them for mulliganing aggressively.
Well, they could Hex this turn into Lightning on 4, but from then on, it's going to be nearly impossible to keep up. And we haven't even seen Draconid Operative yet, so...
Yeah, it's honestly, it's not bad, but you have to think from Utah's side, if they're coining here, what's their turn 3 play? And so their turn 3 play really likely looks like Blackwing Technician. If that's the case and they don't Hex, they're going to fall so far behind that it's unbelievable. So they choose to hedge their bets here. Oh my gosh.
Oh, goodness gracious. The draws just keep on coming for Washington. Cabal Talon Priest is a dark cultist, but better a lot of the time.
It usually is better. In this position, honestly, I don't think it matters if they go with the Technician or the Cabal Talon Priest. The Talon Priest technically adds more health to the board immediately, which could be a big benefit, but maybe they're eyeing like landing an Azure Drake and then having Cabal Talon Priest offset an opposing Azure Drake. There are a little bit more tricks to that one. Liked it on the Whelp. Here, I think I like the Technician.
4/7 plus spell damage plus draw a card. Strictly better than Archmage. 6 mana, 4/7, spell damage plus 1.
When you said Archmage in my head, I was like, Archmage Antonidas.
I know. Everybody forgets about his 6 mana little brother. Regular old Archmage.
Yeah.
No fancy title.
Yeah, he's not Tony. He's like Mark.
Bob.
Yeah. Archmage Bob.
There's Archmage Bob right there. And that could be an Azure Drake.
That could be you.
Could be Central Washington.
Relegated to Jade Lightning here, and Utah is looking slim. Jinyu Water Speaker actually lines up really poorly versus Central Washington. Oftentimes when you're fighting for board control, you don't have the early gas that Central Washington has, so you don't have an opportunity to heal a minion. When you play it, it's threatened by Bookworm, it's threatened by Shadow Word Pain. There's a lot of tempo plays that Central Washington can make. And it looks like to me that they're concerned with their mana utilization. So Netherspite Historian and Wormrest Agent certainly fits the curve a little bit better than Blackwing Technician does. And it actually adds more power and health, or same amount of power, but more health to the board.
Yeah, and that allows you to play the Drake on 5 if you want to, and still have an activator for the Technician in your hand.
Honestly, Maliko's not that bad in this matchup.
That's Archmage on steroids.
Holy Nova looks like it's far away from being played this game. And so in that event, landing Malagos before Holy Nova is just ridiculous. Now, Azure Drake's much more practical, so I definitely will never fault anyone for taking that Azure Drake there.
You have seen one Hex already, though, so who knows? There's another Netherspite in deck. We may see Malagos yet. And Utah picks up the Azure Drake. Long been the bane of priest decks everywhere because it has 4 attack.
Yep.
nearly insurmountable.
I'm
But
wondering when we're getting Shadow Word Azure Drake.
Shadow Word 4. We got Pain, Death, Shadow Word, Coma.
My question is the number 4 or the word 4? Because I think the number 4 really says what that card's trying to do.
Yeah. That really makes a statement.
Number 4 could be referring to like 4 things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I like the Shadow Word.
Shadow
number
Word 4.
Yeah.
We'll pitch it. We can hit up Puffin now. He just joined the development team. Who knows, guys?
Call me Ben Brode.
We'll design your game. All right, so Utah throwing down that Azure Drake and decides to run the Spirit Claws into the Worm Rest Agent, but Central Washington's board is just so full of health.
I'm liking Blackwing Corruptor. Make use of that Nether Spite Historian. That's a card that tends to be fairly weak in the matchup anyway. You get an extra 5/4. Looks good to me.
Yeah, lining up very well against Utah's turn. And then looking at Utah's hand, like you were saying, Jinyu Water Speaker is just incredibly weak against Priest.
Yeah, it's not really getting the job done. The healing to yourself doesn't really matter that much. This is a battle for the board. That's what Priest wants to be in. Not a race for damage. A race for damage, oftentimes Central Washington will lose that. But we are far away from a race for damage right now. It is board pressure.
Just an incredibly weak start for Utah. They have not been able to have access to their, quick Jade ramp. So they're not in the position that they can play one card and get large minions every single turn. Unfortunately, that's just not how their hand played out. They have anti-aggro tech cards in their hand. And Dragon Priest, it's not an aggro deck.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the Totem Golem is certainly a nice draw here. Just the extra power on board. They have a Maelstrom Portal in hand. Maybe Central Washington missteps their boundary a little bit and can get somewhat punished. But their value is just looking insane right now. 2 Azure Drakes, Draconid Operative, Holy Nova to fight a board back that they maybe lost.
look at how Nova even just lines up on this board. Corruptor into the Jinyu, Cabal into the Golem, Nova.
Yeah, I mean, Nova could just be on the horizon this turn. It's pretty good. You're sacrificing 8 points of damage to clear the opposing board. But Draconid Operative looking awfully appealing. Looks like they're eyeing Holy Nova.
I mean, you can Operative on the following turn with a hero power.
Looks good to me.
Obviously, you have to be concerned about Lightning Storm from your opponent.
This is just strong.
But I mean, that's
a 3/5 Cabal
pretty good.
Talon Priest. This is...
okay.
Well, that card can do some things, but not right now.
Yeah, not when you can't do anything else with your turn. If you can Spirit Claws and Hero Power, roll Wrath of Air, clear off the Corruptor, that maybe puts you in a position to be able to get some work done in the following turns.
They didn't see Shadow Word Pain, and so I think this should be a big indicator to them that this is likely one of the better times to actually play Jinyu Water Speaker. The longer they wait to play that, the more likely it is Central Washington picks up a Shadow Word Pain. And that's going to kill the Jinyu Water Speaker, regardless of what its health is. Looks like they have their eyes set on Jade Claws this turn. And Flame Whip gets drawn off the Maelstrom Portal. Very nice pickup for Utah.
All right, that's given Utah at least a bit of a board. And Shadow Word Death is a dead card right now. Central Washington can just Operative, trade into the Imp, and then use their hero power to heal back up that Talon Priest. They're still at 30 health, and it's turn 7, so it's pretty good for them. And Bran is
mighty
nice.
good right now. Bran is so good with this hand. 2 cards off the Azure Drakes. 4/6 with your Blackwing Technician.
I mean, Washington's probably playing Bran in the deck.
Yeah, that's...
You have to assume.
That card's just good.
I do like with Draconid Operative, if it's golden, all of your options are golden. It's so uniform.
I remember when Bran first came out, I really underestimated that card. It has been a force since League of Explorers. I'm going to miss
Much stronger than his Death Rattle equivalent, Baron Rivendare.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much all of the League legendaries, other than Archthief Ratham, found their way into some really strong meta decks.
Yep, I like the take. Speaking of takes, they're going to take that Flame Imp. And Utah is quickly running out of resources.
It's a way to get some resources. going to take a bit, though.
I don't want to say that this is a devolve turn, but it might be a
I'm
devolve
thinking
turn.
it. If you can Mana Tide, devolve, and hero power.
You just can't. If they do it now, there's Central Washington just simply reloads the board. You're not really getting anything from this. So I think their hope here has to just be continue to develop and look for the key turn. Central Washington's very likely to play 2 things on the following turn, 3-drop and a 5-drop. Then devolve gets a lot more value. So I like that they're being patient here and setting it up to where Central Washington has to make a decision. Do they want to push damage? Do they want to take out this Mana Tide? So I can tell you the answer is take out Mana Tide.
Yeah. And 2 weapons in hand for Utah, still looking very weak. Brand Azure Drake, however,
Not very weak.
pretty good. Pretty good.
It's pretty cool.
Draws 2 cards. It's a good 5-drop.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see them play the natural Azure Drake rather than another Spike Historian one. It gives Utah a little bit of information here that they don't have to play around a range of strange dragon cards. Because they know that Central Washington's going to have Azure Drake naturally in the deck. So in that spot, they give a tad of information, which isn't likely to be relevant to this game, but something to always think about.
Yeah, it's good to still cover your bases, because if this game were to turn, you know, around and not be in their favor anymore, then potentially could come back to bite them. Probably won't.
Like, this is the devolve turn that Utah needs, and they need it to go very good for them, but the chances are very slim. There's some 4-drops that are incredibly weak, like Midnight Drake and Twilight Drake would be vulnerable as well, but there's also some very strong 4-drops, like Flame Wreath Faceless or Tazdingo
Lord.
in this spot. Like,
Joe Yeti.
yeah, I mean, you can... The devolve can be dead, but it can also be very live.
Let's see what comes out here.
Doomsayer's
That's a
pretty
live
good.
devolve.
Doomsayer's pretty good. So they lose their Jinyu Water Speaker, but you know what? I think Utah's pretty okay with this.
Yeah, I mean, they lose the Jinyu, but they would have lost the Jinyu to the Dark Iron Dwarf anyway. So that worked out pretty well. Is it the swing they needed? No, it likely will not be enough.
They end up drawing Bloodlust on top of it, so not the situation they were looking for. And now Draconid Crusher shows up to the party as well. So it's looking like Azure Drake and Blackwing Technician here start making the push to get Utah down to 15. 9-9 for 6 mana. I think that's the game plan here.
Well, they only have 7 mana this turn, so they cannot play both the Drake and the Technician. If they'd picked
right.
up the Twilight Drake, they could have gone Twilight Drake Technician.
Ah, that actually changes a lot of things then. I think it's probably still the Crusher, but now you're looking at like I don't know, Azure Drake Power Word Shield. Maybe Power Word Shield on a Northshire Cleric.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Still, by all means, not a weak turn.
Nope. It's tough to have weak turns with Dragon Priest when it's this kind of battle anyway.
When you have this many
Ooh.
resources. Well, that changes the turn a bit. Or maybe not that much. And another Brand Bronzebeard. This one's not golden, but
Yep.
still equally as effective.
You know, I think I like saving the Northshire Cleric here. It's not really adding a ton of value to board, and it does offer you a massive card draw potential alongside the Holy Nova here. So when they play it this way, they simply risk it dying. And in this spot, it's going to die. Couple key draws from Utah could still get them back into this, but they're very quickly running out of time.
Aya Blackpaw would be fantastic in this spot. Washington does have both Shadow Word Deaths in hand, though, so even some large Jades at this point aren't going to get the job done. So
Yeah.
how does Washington want to play this one out? They can choose to just go strong on board
Just
with
what they're
Brand
eyeing.
plus buff minions.
I mean, the Holy Nova is dealing an extra point of damage here. You get to ensure that Utah is below the 15 mark for next turn. I think I like it. Brand and then the Wormrest Agent.
Yep, sounds good to me.
I don't know, maybe you don't need a Holy Nova. Maybe you just play
You
Brand,
can-
Blackwing, and Wormrest straight over the board. What does the damage really mean right now?
I think the damage doesn't mean anything. The Blood Mage Thalnos potentially sticking around means more, because then Lightning Storm is potentially destructive. But even if you don't Holy Nova here, you're missing what? 8 damage?
8 damage is a lot. I like 8 damage.
There's Jade Chieftain.
Yeah, it's just not nearly enough to really get back into this situation. They're facing a ton of power on board. Central Washington's got the Jade Chieftain checked with a pair of Shadow Word Deaths. Just wasn't enough in the early game for Utah. The early curve from Central Washington was so good.
It's potentially the longest living Netherspite historian I've ever seen. I think it's been out there for like 6 turns. All right, just now Utah is ramping some of their Jade Golems. Fortunately for them, it does not look like it will be enough.
Yeah, I mean, already 6 damage on board, so able to cut half of Utah's life total this turn.
If you brand Crusher, is it an 11-11 or 12-12?
Yes.
It is? Whew.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think we'll see it right now either, to be fair.
We might see it. I mean, opening up yourself that way, I don't think there's anything you really get that punished by.
Yeah, even second Hex isn't going to bite you too hard here.
I mean, you're still very far ahead on resources. But that being said, that's a reason to Shadow Word Death, is to continue to choke Utah's options. It's not about what's the biggest play you can make this turn. It's about how can you take your opponent's outs away here. So Central Washington, when they make this 12-12, maybe they run into just the perfect range from Utah. They see Hex, they see Lightning Storm, and suddenly they don't have a board.
Yeah, I think I just like the Death and the 9-9.
Yep.
The 9-9 is certainly a formidable body. I don't think we need to get too crazy here. Or just Guardian and heal up the Drake, too. Yeah.
Does the same job, kind of, regardless of which one they choose. The difference is, if somehow your board gets swept this way, say Elemental Destruction hits, then you have the Brandon Crusher to reload afterwards.
There's the Storm.
Yeah, not enough. It can't hit the Azure Drake, can't hit the Wormrust Agent, can't hit the Twilight Guardian. So forced to take more damage, and looking like that's going to do it.
Low rolled on 2 of the minions. It did high roll the Drake and the Twilight Guardian, but that's not going to make any difference here.
Yeah, not quite the game over yet, but it's a matter of going through the motions. Game's not ending, but the game is over.
Washington doesn't find a way to close it out this turn. Shadow Word Pain and Bookworm pretty much would have been the only ways to do that. But now we do get to see a super powerful Draconid Crusher.
That's Deathwing sized.
Deathwing Crusher. That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, gonna take the value trade here is what they're thinking about. Again, don't think it really matters. It's 2 roads to, close to 100% victory, but I think I would tend to cut out the 5-5.
I mean, Utah would need that card in their hand to be Lightning Storm, and the next card they draw to be Hex. That's the only way.
Well, it's about as close as it gets to those cards being the case. But now Central Washington with a 2-0 lead. Priest just steamrolls the mid-range Shaman in this match. I'm actually, after watching that, I'm pretty convinced that Priest is very favored in that matchup. It's very similar to the Reno Mage style, where if they don't check your early board, the massive value you get from your card draw is just too much for your opponent to handle.
It's not as obvious of a matchup, I think. Very similar to Dragon Priest and Jade Druid. It's not as clear-cut as a lot of people think. If the Priest can steamroll that board early on, then the Jade decks simply are slow, no matter what way you cut it. And in that case, the Jade Shaman has a lot of anti-aggro tech cards, Jinyu Water Speaker, Lightning Storms. It's tough. If they had that early Jade ramp, certainly could have gone a very different way. We have yet another Twitter question from you all out there in the Twitter sphere. This one comes to us from Lorinda Games, who is actually is that Lorinda's Twitter, Admirable?
Absolutely.
It is. Lorinda is a Twitch streamer, Hearthstone caster.
I don't know if Lorinda Games actually. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm almost 100% positive.
All right, but he says, obviously the Dollar on Flame card back is the best, but what is the second best in your opinions?
Pirates, no question. It's thematic. It's powerful right now.
I don't know.
Pirates are way better than ninjas. Everybody knows that.
Well, you're just wrong.
If you disagree with it, you're just wrong.
I disagree with it, and you're wrong. But I don't know. That's tough. I do really like the Apple Pie card back. I think it's really cute. Also, the sparkly rainbow one is very pretty. I don't know. I have card back, like OCD. I just change them all the time. And sometimes if I'm feeling especially picky, I will choose the card back specifically to go with the deck that I am playing, because you can assign card backs per deck, and that can get very colorful.
I do that sometimes when I play like Medivh as my mage portrait. Sometimes I will go equip the Medivh one, but it looks to me like it's ninja-esque.
Yeah.
And that's usually
Then
what throws me off of it. Then I'd go straight to pirates. And
Fair
I do
enough.
want to point out that the ninja card back wasn't your favorite.
No,
Which
it's
means
not.
that the pirate one,
It's still not
by
my
definition,
favorite.
is just stronger and thus better.
Some may call that logic. Some may disagree. Some may also want to see us get into game number 3. And that's what we're going to do right after this. University of Utah still needing to pick up wins with all 3 of their classes, and Central Washington down to just the mage.
Yeah, and this is where I think it's going to get a little bit tough for Utah, but they do have some matchups here that look very favorable. Druid is oftentimes going to trounce the mage build if it's a Reno mage. The Reno Warlock decks tend to be slightly favored in this matchup as well. Sans the times that you get, pyroblasted in the face, and at the times where Ice Block is just too strong of a setup and they have enough burn to end. But we saw some technology come from the Europe Championships where Stanudachi had a Curse of Rafam in his Reno Warlock deck. And so Curse of Rafam puts a spell into your opponent's hand that deals them 2 damage at the start of their turn. And since Ice Block can't activate on your own turn, it's a way to effectively kill through Ice Block.
Would you say it's a sneakier tech card than Sacrificial Pact in your Reno Warlock to go up against the Reno Warlock mirror?
I would not in the Reno Warlock mirror. The Curse of Rafam tends to be very weak unless you can catch your opponent off guard with 9 cards in their hand. But in the Reno Mage matchup, it is something. Sacrificial Pact is one of those cards where it is quite useless versus most of your opponents, but quite powerful in the mirror match. So I'd certainly say that Sacrificial Pact is much more spectacular.
Maybe the sneakier tech card. But we have the Jade Druid for Utah and then Central Washington on the Mage deck. If it is a Reno Mage, then the Jade Druid is heavily favored.
Oh, yeah. And it looked like a Reno Mage to me. Those cards were very
decidedly Reno-esque.
And those are also very Reno-esque. So this matchup is very, very favored for Utah. They're looking to simply invest their early turns into ramping their mana and unlocking the massive potential of their expensive cards to make Jade Golem after card draw after card draw. And Central Washington, their game plan is to rely on a value battle. It's hard to do that when Jade Golems just get huge.
It is not unwinnable for the Mage, however. We've seen the Mage win out, I think, in Trinity Series, actually.
Yeah.
Alliance on the Reno Mage did manage to take out a Jade Druid a couple weeks back. So how is the Reno Mage going to put themselves in the best position to win this matchup? You said it was a value game.
Yeah, oftentimes it's about stealing the games when the opportunity is right. And that largely involves Alex Straza, where over the weekend we actually saw George C., I think, drop a game with Jade Druid versus Freeze Mage in a spot where it got down to the very end, and it was a race to just make Jade Golems from the final Jade idols he had. And I want to say it was Dr. Hippie who just found the perfect spots to squeeze in damage and used a Blizzard to stop the board for 1 turn.
And a Warsong Commander.
Lethal. Yeah, and it was
Yeah,
Warsong Commander was delivering 2 points of damage for 2 points of damage thanks to a mulch. The mulch, of course, was necessary on the turn it was played, but Dr. Hippie just got the perfect damage towards the end, and the freeze effects were what did it. So it comes down to either a major tempo play, a string of those cards, or it boils down to Alex Straza and having a follow-up of massive burn.
Yes, this is one of the most polarizing matchups in the meta currently, but certainly the Mage still can pull out a win. Utah has had a pretty strong start. Innervate Jade Blossom puts them able to innervate Nourish on turn 3, or gives them a higher density of draws that they can actually play because they have an additional innervate plus coin in hand.
Yeah, the innervates actually can be one of the situations where Utah struggles a little bit. This tends to be like a later game card for Druid because they want to couple it with Gadgets and Auctioneer. And so when you're burning them early, you don't quite have that opportunity. And so here, if they want to do anything, they got to innervate to do it. So at this point, I think Utah is likely to slow down their game plan a little bit and look to buy some value with those mana cards. The the development you get early on board is sometimes not worth it. Honestly, I personally don't like the Innervate Jade Blossom on turn 1 in this matchup.
Yeah.
Because of that reason.
In other matchups, it certainly can be very strong. Against aggro, getting down the 1/1 body helps you to ramp your Jade Golems going further on, which can be very beneficial. And even just unlocking 3 mana on turn 2 can give you access to Feral Rage against a Totem Golem, for instance.
Maybe it opens you up to an Innervate another 5-drop afterwards. Very important in the aggressive matchups because they're almost cheating their development because they're playing so many efficient early game cards. So you need to do the same as the Druid, who's playing a much more fair game plan in the grand scheme of things. The trade-off, though, is that you against Control, it's a massive favorite. It's very much a deck that's tailored to counter Control decks.
Yeah, I mean, if the Druid plays it right, they are actually impervious to fatigue. The client will simply shut the game down before the Druid is able to fatigue if they choose to shuffle those Jade Idols correctly. And though they did have to pass on this turn, essentially, they were able to hero power the book. But no development on Utah's side. Washington's hand is fairly weak.
Yeah, I mean, their turn 4 is looking awfully dead. They do have Archmage Antonidas, which could be a key tool way down the road, but certainly not a card they'd like to see right now. For Central Washington, I think they just want to draw a card draw at this point and start finding the key tools that allow them to win the game.
Maybe there's a Burgly Bully in the deck for Central Washington.
Definitely can be major impact in this matchup. And Utah here, they're going to coin for the Azure Drake, so that will replace the card they give up from the coin, and then it allows them to actually cast Nourish on the following turn. So look for them to build their hand size and find lots of Jade stuff to do. In Central Washington, I think this is looking like a cycle turn. They think getting the Ice Block down was right, but here, cycle that Blood Mage, cycle that Loot Hoarder. They've got to find stuff to do.
Yeah, and the Loot Hoarder is a tech choice that we have been seeing more and more in the Reno Mage. It's not necessarily standard, but it is quite good when you need to get to those important cards. Kazakus. If you need to get to Alexstrasza, in this case, Igmaster Salia can do crazy things with 10 mana Kazakus potions. If you can get, rest 3 minions plus 6 health, that is a board that the Druid will never be able to deal with.
Yeah, typically when you see Loot Hoarder in a Arena Mage build, it's to find answers to aggressive cards early on, and then also to find key combo pieces, where in control matchups, you are at detriment because you're drawing extra cards, and you're trading that off for the ability to find your combo pieces more often. That's very important versus Druid, and I think it was Rage was the first player I saw really go for a heavy cycle build to get the job done.
Yeah, and I mean, against the Jade Druid, if you're going into the late game to the point where fatigue is an option for you, you're losing that game anyway.
Yeah.
So cycling in the early game, there's really nothing wrong with it.
Exactly.
All it does is essentially have you play a 29-card deck.
Yeah, and in Utah in this spot, because they have so much card draw in hand, this Nourish actually needs to be for mana. One of the ways that they can compound the issue that Central Washington is facing is by unlocking that card draw way earlier than they normally would. So a Nourish for mana here means they can still hero power, and they're not filling their hand up with so many cards that the Auctioneer is limited in its ability. So Utah absolutely right in their approach.
Yeah, very nice series of plays coming from Utah. Central Washington picks up the Reno Jackson, who is not actually all that relevant in this matchup.
Yeah, tends to sit on the sideline.
And the Frost Nova as well, which is, like we saw in a Reno Mage build earlier today, targeting aggressive lineups more so. But, like you had mentioned from HCT this weekend, a series of strong freezes and some actual board presence from Washington could be enough to close out the game against Utah.
Yeah.
So
that's where Archmage Antonidas really fits in best, is if Central Washington can find Emperor Thaurissan and discount the entire hand, maybe they get to play Archmage Antonidas, make a bunch of fireballs, and then use consecutive freezes to buy some minion damage.
Observe and reflect.
Outside of that, though, it's really tough. And there's the Burgly Bully, so things are starting to line up a little bit for Central Washington here. I know that I've played this matchup a lot from both sides, and very few times have I seen the Mage win, regardless of which side I was on.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough.
It's not likely. But if you're going to do it, this hand isn't terrible. If you bully on the following turn, get 2, 3 coins from it, that Antonitis suddenly represents a whole lot of damage that the Druid simply can't recover from, except for the Feral Rages that they run in the deck.
Yeah, Utah looking like they're eyeing the Fandral and the Feral Rage here, and maybe even the Jade Idol. It's not bad for them to shuffle Jade Idols in their deck necessarily, because they have Nourish and because they have Auctioneer. So when they start picking up those extra Jade Idols, that's stuff to do along with it. And they do need to get the Jades still ramping. And right now, it's only at 2-2.
Yeah, very weak. Certainly something that Washington can still deal with, which is not where Utah wants to be. They are going to choose to not instead get both of the options.
Which is fine as well. I mean, there's still plenty of other cards in their deck they'd like to find first. And that's really where you know that Utah is developing their game plan here. It's find the big minions and start wrecking Central Washington.
Still 1 turn off from Fireland's Portal. The Bully is not a strong option here now because Utah can simply clear it off on board.
Yeah, and wreck they shall. Central Washington, if they want to clear this Fandral, it's going to require their Frost Nova and their Ice Lance. And that is not a very profitable play.
There must be.
That allows Utah to just develop away on the following turn, and then Washington needs to top deck Flame Strike?
I don't even know. This is a tough turn. Fandral's scary. Now, they have seen a Nourish already, so it's a little bit less scary, but you have to wonder, why did Utah not put extra Jade Idols in the deck? To me, that smells like they have a second Nourish.
Yeah.
So if they make that read, they may just outright go for Frost Nova and Ice Lance here. Wow.
They're going to do it. They respect the Fandral enough.
That is fairly impressive. I think that's a really tough read to make, and oftentimes it will require that exact train of thought in order to make that happen.
It does set them up for board clears in the following turns. You can Blizzard on 7, clean up stuff with Volcanic Potion on 8, but at no point in time are you really setting yourself ahead, which is what Washington needs to do. If they're playing from behind, they're going to lose.
Yeah, which that's generally the way the game goes the entire time. The other question to ask yourself from Central Washington's position is, do I get punished by Nourish anyway? Can I even beat a Nourish?
Yeah.
If the answer to that is no, that may be a time to just start extending into the board. But I think they're far away from the Frost Nova into Blizzard tempo plays to win. So their next option is Fireland's Portal, hope to find Alexstrasza, hope to get the burn through.
All right, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Stampeding Kodo is...
It's fairly weak.
It's better than Starving Buzzard.
It's better than Doppelgangster.
That's true. It's better than 5-mana 3/3 Hunter card.
It's better than Shield Bearer.
Better than Shield.
I could just name better minions. It's better than all day.
It's better than Wisp. It's better than Tiny Fin.
Central Washington just going to sit back and wait for Utah to get every single card that they need. At this point for Utah, I honestly would like to see the Idol shuffled in with Auctioneer and double Wild Growth in hand. They are so far ahead. At any time they want, they could just draw so many cards.
I mean, Auctioneer double Wild Growth is 6. That's kind of nutty.
Yeah, oftentimes you're going to see Utah simply use the Wild Growths and hang on to the excess mana that they get from it, because they'll draw too many cards if they do it the other way. And if your hand size is 10, it's some really awkward turns. So it's looking like they're going to go with Jade Behemoth and a pair of Wild Growths next turn. Just simply hold on to the card draw.
So Washington, thinking about the Volcanic Potion, clears off the Golem. They have no way of killing the Azure Drake this turn, and the only follow-up with the potion is the Burgly Bully or the Water Elemental.
Yeah, and this is another one of the reasons why the matchup tends to be weak. Is it's very difficult for Central Washington to make use of a lot of their cards. They offer a lot of value versus wide board positions, not very much versus stats that are stacked on top of each other.
This is actually fairly awkward for Utah. They don't have even a Living Roots in hand to be able to kill off this Burgly Bully in cooperation with the Azure Drake. And if left unchecked, that would be a whole lot of coins if they were going to go for a gadget turn.
Yeah, I wonder if Utah I wonder if Utah's ever thinking about just not giving up coins here and just going for big board development until they can kill this bully. You know, the Burglary Bully makes it very awkward to cast the Wild Growths. Every spell is going to give Central Washington a coin. Every coin they give, another potential fireball.
What to do?
Cards like this provide disruption on your opponent's turns. Love these cards.
They make the game more interesting.
It's like a board objective for your opponent. Yeah, so they'll give up 1 coin to favor massive development on this turn. That's a lot of Jade stuff.
Yeah, looks pretty good to me. Flame Strike maybe would buy Washington a couple more turns.
Yep, and that attack right there.
I like the Drake trade.
That attack
That's
there
good.
is a big heed to Flame Strike. Even though Central Washington doesn't have a Flame Strike in their hand, this is a strong hedge of bets because it looks like that's what they're setting up. So I totally agree with that. You don't need that Azure Drake damage to win. You don't need the Azure Drake body to pull ahead at all. Start hedging your bets and rely on your deck's inevitability to take the game.
Yeah, plays around Blizzard also because the Drake was at 2 health. It's a very, very great forethought there from Utah. Really well thought out. And now Washington is
The old Blizzard
fighting
Doomsayer.
a losing game.
Blizzard Doomsayer here is actually really strong too because the bully's still on board. It means that Utah, if they're going to cast spells to get rid of the Doomsayer, it's going to cost them coins. At the same time, if they want to draw cards on the turn that the Doomsayers play, that's one of the most powerful things you can do against a Doomsayer.
Yeah.
It's going to, again, put more coins in Central Washington's hand. They may be on hero power pass this turn.
Do you ever consider coin hero power the Aya?
I don't think so. And I think that they don't really care that much about the minion being left on board. All they care about is getting this board clear, then finding the Kazakus potion they need.
Yeah. I mean, a 10-mana Kazakus potion could still make some waves here. Now the Doomsayer is live, so if the Kazakus potion is revive minions, Doomsayer could be in there.
That's a risk that they're likely just going to have to take sometimes, though. Emperor Thorson gets found.
That's a nice draw.
They have no spells in hand to actually discount at this point, though. But it's probably still their most powerful play.
Well, you can Emperor in combination with the Water Elemental or the Kazakus.
Kazakus has got to come down, I think. I think waiting for Bran here is a little bit foolish.
Too greedy.
Yeah, if they wait for Bran, they often just won't have the time to find it. And since they don't have any card draw, it's just a natural draw every turn. And they need that 10-mana potion. Next turn, it's primed to get so much value. And if they play the Emperor, the res is looking that much better too. So
Yeah, true.
it's Kazakus Emperor here all day if I'm in this position.
And they better do it quickly because picking those Kazakus potions can take time. Time that they now don't have.
Look at it, by the way.
Oh.
Ooh. So look at this. They're going to try to stick the Archmage to the board and say, you know what? If our opponent doesn't have Mulch or Swipe Wrath, this guy's staying on the board. This is another brilliant play from Central Washington. Every step of the way, they've looked to make the turns awkward for Utah. And now, it's likely to work. Utah needs to draw a way to check this, and they need it now. There's no Innervates left in the deck, so they don't have the liberty of the Auctioneer picking up a ton of value in this spot.
That's a really heads-up play as well.
And
That's one that didn't honestly even dawn on me.
These are the kinds of risks that you have to take when the matchup is unfavored. You have to put pressure on your opponent with very powerful tools that you often need to win the game. Are they going to find a safe spot here? Very unlikely. Now they've forced all this card draw, and Wrath gets picked up.
They did it.
That is brutal for Central Washington. Swipe got drawn on that turn, and Wrath got drawn on that turn. Central Washington had a very high % chance to win in that spot, and you have to commend them for that.
But you know what? This is a clear board. Central Washington, for, I believe, the first time, has a chance to extend onto the board when Utah has nothing in play. They decided to Arcane Intellect instead of drop one of their 4-drops. What do you think about that?
I love this play. I think that Arcane Intellect is going to find them extra gas to keep this board potentially. I mean, look at how much Utah just struggled to handle the Archmage Antonidas. How are they going to handle the Emperor Thorson? Well, Mulch is certainly a way to do that. But Central Washington, they have set up everything incredibly well this game. And that Mulch, that is just devastating. I think I like the Auctioneer here just a little bit better.
The Behemoth puts more power on board, but you've got 2 Auctioneers in hand that
Ragnos
are
Light
kind of
Lord
wearing you down.
Gets
oh,
drawn
baby.
from the mulch. That's a big one.
Wow.
I think you dropped the Light Lord here.
That also makes your potential Kazakus res potions that much better.
The heal for 8 is no slouch at this point. Maybe they're looking at finding a better Reno turn and then having the Light Lord be the final threat to try to follow up. But by that point, Utah's Jades are going to be huge.
Okay, Arcane Blast, Auchenai Soul Priest, Succubus.
I'm taking the Arcane Blast.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing uses
The
for
old Auchenai Reno
either of the others.
is awkward nigh.
Awkward Nye Soul Priest.
You don't want that combo to happen, nor do you want it to happen with the Ragnaros Light Lord. So
Even better than Auchenai Tree of Life at killing yourself.
wow, that's a lot of stuff to put into a Jade Behemoth. So they are holding on for Bran, and honestly, when they made the Archmage play, I didn't quite spot that. That was fairly brilliant. And so at this point, they may have the time to wait. I mean, if this is Jade Idol, this needs to be shuffle. That's the last Jade Idol right now.
And if Utah draws a minion instead of a spell. Ooh, that's a good draw. It's not going to give him excess mana, but it is going to put a 7/7 in play. And draw him a card. So essentially, Utah has played the game up until this point, waiting for this point in time. But that Alexstrasza gives potential back to Washington.
I don't know if it gets much better than that. Their window of opportunity to get Alexstrasza down is very slim, and Utah's way to heal isn't actually health heal. It's armor in the form of Feral Rage. So it's dealing the maximum damage it can possibly deal here. Utah gets healed to 30 from the Mistress, back down to 15. So 19 effective health. They need to get the Kazakus potion, though. I really feel if they had a 10-cost potion here that they'd be able to drive this play with much more information.
Alexstrasza into a 10-cost board-building potion.
Oh, that's insane. I mean, Sho was in prime position to win a game against Nyria with that exact situation. He had +6 health on the Alexstrasza. It was a 12-health Alexstrasza. You're just not going to kill that thing.
Wow, that Wrath draw
Yep.
is gross.
That Auctioneer is looking, once again, very good.
I mean, the double Auctioneer slows this deck down against aggro, but you're not playing this deck for aggro.
No, indeed, you are not.
So, seems to me like Auctioneer, Wrath for 1. Running the
Yeah, I mean,
Jade.
again, if Utah just continues to extend the game, that's their win rate. All they have to do is not die, and they win. And oftentimes when you say that, it's like, well, if I don't die and I draw the right threat. But here, they're going to draw the right threat. It is quite literally a matter of not dying.
So they chose to Wrath for 1 and not play the gadget.
They're still not playing the gadgets, and I don't quite understand this.
I don't get it.
Their game plan is to have no cards left in the deck and quickly cycle through Jade Idols and make them all in one turn.
Yeah.
But they don't have any innervates left, so they can't do one of the super sick, like 5 Jade card turns. They should be taking what they can get at this point.
The most they'll be able to do is...
This is 4 less
2 or
power on the
3.
board. This is a few less cards they've gotten into their deck right now. Sometimes the fancy play in doing everything isn't as good as just doing enough. And in this spot, they missed out on 3 potential card draws because they're looking for the massive endgame play. Do enough. You don't have to do everything.
Well, and Washington picks up the Fireball. I mean, this Kazakus needs to do work, but
Yeah,
that's what Kazakus is for.
And this is why I was in favor of playing the Light Lord way earlier, is now at this point, it's simply trading with a Jade Golem, where earlier on, it would have healed them for 8 and been an 8/8 on board. Your opponent tends to have to kill an 8/8. And it looked like that potion was fairly weak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not what they wanted.
Deal 8 damage is nice, but the transform, it can be nice.
The thing is, by the time it's nice, you've lost the game.
Sometimes, yeah. I imagine the way that they win is Utah, their hand resource getting down to nothing, and then being able to do it on a turn where they still have Ice Block, they still have plenty of health, and they're transforming a bunch of big Jades all at once. But outside of that, the sheep is pretty bad.
That's true. If you transform the Gadgetzin along with the Jades on board, then they lose their ability to cycle. Then it's 1 minion per turn, and potentially a turn where they have to shuffle Jades and don't get a minion at all.
And look at the way that Central Washington's turn would have been if Utah had played the Auctioneer on the previous turn. They would have had to kill the Auctioneer, which would have meant that it stalled some of their potential development. In this case, it wouldn't have made a difference. It just would have pulled the Fireball. But sometimes your opponent has to Flame Strike it.
And Utah still choosing not to cycle. Foregoed in favor
at this
of
point,
playing
it's
the
just
Ancient War.
consistent. So, I mean, it makes sense not to cycle at this point. Yeah, push 8. Utah has begun the close.
Does Washington have to go ahead and Kazakus this turn?
Well, if they do, it is really strong because Utah has no Jade cards left in their hand. Now, very few cards in the deck, extremely likely to draw a Jade card, but it doesn't get much better than this with the Mystic Wool option.
They go ahead and play it this turn. Fireball Forgotten Torch is 6, 7, 8, 9, plus 8 from the Kazakus potion. That's 17. Roaring Torch out of the deck would be 6 more. Potential for 23.
Yep.
Utah's at 21.
And that's what they're looking at right now. If they don't sheep, they also get their Ice Block popped, and having the Ice Block buys them that extra turn. So that extra turn is likely a necessity to pull this out.
I mean, there's the chance. It's going to take a couple turns, and it's slim.
Utah visibly
there's a chance.
frustrated also by the Kazakus potion, and Raven Idol gets drawn.
Okay.
I got the best deals anywhere.
They're certainly pretty good, I will admit.
Some solid deals. Ooh. But that's not a great deal. And neither are any of those.
Savage Roar, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. Oh,
Very
so
close.
close to popping the Ice Block. Does draw them a card, but just leaving their board fairly dead this turn.
Oh, the Mark draws as well because the sheep are beasts.
Oh, that's right.
So you draw 2. Just in case you didn't know what Raven Idol did, there you go.
I forgot
a little
the
extra
sheep were
time.
beasts. Ha! Look at that.
Oh. What happened to the
Yeah, we're
board,
having a little bit
Admirable?
of a technical issue, I think.
I'm not
Yeah, I'll check.
entirely sure on where the Cabal Courier and the Mistress of Mixers came from. They were... Yep, there you go. That was a board state from, I believe, the last time the Druid Choose One bugged out.
So, sorry about that. I mean, sometimes we experience technical issues. Apologies for it, and we'll work hard to make sure that's not happening again. But Reno Jackson hitting here, and they actually chose not to use the Mark of Yasharaj on the previous turn, so they still will get their extra card draw here.
I mean, that's it for gadgets. Utah now will not have their way of cycling Jade Idol for large Jade minions all on the same turn. Granted, Brand Bronzebeard plus Jade Spirit is pretty good, but if they're mulching this turn, they can't play it.
And is that their third Jade Idol from the shuffle as well? If that's the
I
case,
believe so.
That means that's got to be a shuffle when they cast it. So here it's simply the Jade Spirit. You go from there. Now that is... No, that's not interesting. Never mind, because they can just always shuffle in the Jade Idol. Okay. Yeah, not the Dark Fisher forcing your opponent to draw cards. There are some rare situations where the fatigue could matter, but...
They could potentially make them fatigue for 1 damage.
Yeah.
Maybe. Unlikely. But Utah, just the fact that they can't brand Jade Spirit this turn,
I mean, they need to... I think they should just make a Jade Spirit.
Yeah.
I don't think they need the brand.
Jade
value
Spirit
that much.
cycle the idol.
Wow, they're not going to play the Jade, and that's going to open up Ragnaros Lightlord for Central
man.
Washington. And that 8 damage is very important. 2 mulches are now gone, and if they don't have damage left in the hand to clear this. That means Ragnaros Lightlord is threatening lethal.
Utah used both mulches. They don't have a way to clear it.
Do they have a second swipe? If they have a second swipe, they have to take 5 damage, and that's not even there. So Ragnaros Lightlord is going to deal 8 damage, set
8
Utah
plus 7.
down to 7.
Fireball hero power. That's it.
They have to hero power this turn. They get the hero power in. It has to be a trade. So 8 plus 6, 14, and then hero power, 15 damage. So Central Washington is 1 damage
The
off of
Roaring
delivering
Torch is
lethal
in
this
Washington's
turn.
deck.
And think about how many turns they have to do this now. The block's not getting popped next turn.
That's not quite it. But
And if Utah
it's
goes
still gonna
down
be good
to
enough.
that 1 card, remember the Nat the Darkfisher could deal that final point of damage.
Wow.
This game's insane.
Honestly, I really want to put this one on. Okay, so Utah has 3 cards left. Utah played this game very unexpectedly. And in a lot of cases, I don't know if maybe it was just a little bit too greedy. Trying to delay that big Jade turn just a little bit too much.
Well, the fatigue situation's not going to come about because the block's getting popped on this following turn. Oh, I don't know. Maybe they make another golem instead of shuffling.
Well, if Washington just draws that Roaring Torch, it's all over.
Central Washington has 2 draws to end the game.
That's not it.
Polymorph does no good in this situation.
I mean, they still play it, but you have to hero power face. You have to put them
absolutely.
on.
They
If they don't hero power, they are dead.
no. Hero power face. If they hero power that sheep, the
Well-
chance for the Nat the Darkfisher is 100% gone, and they need that potential right now.
Well, is it ever really there, even?
Yes, because if you play it at the start of your... No, not right now! Oh, no!
Did Utah play their last Jade Idol? Did they cycle?
No. But here's the thing. The next Jade Idol they draw,
Yes.
it's likely to just make a golem.
Yes.
So if that's the case, they can Fireball, play Nat the Darkfisher, hope that it forces the draw, they draw the turn naturally, and they die that way. This
That
way,
would be
they've
the two,
given up
yeah.
that is a 50% chance that they gave up in the event that Utah makes a Jade Idol in this turn.
I mean, they're not preventing the block from being popped. There's 2 idols. Now Utah shuffles. Actually, there's the only idol. If Utah had drawn that naturally, made a 13-13, or 14-14, I think they polymorphed the 13-13.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Oh, it is 2 Jade
yeah,
idols.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that doesn't even matter at this point. The Jade Idols are way too big for Central Washington to handle.
But Utah would have most likely waited for the last idol,
And
which
they don't-
Nat could have forced the additional draw.
Right, and in this spot, they don't. Even if they don't kill the Nat, when it forces additional draw here, now Utah's not taking fatigue from it.
Now Central Washington needs to draw that Roaring Torch this turn.
Wow, that could have been a... Wow. There's
That could have been a
absolutely
50-50 for-
There's absolutely no reason to kill this Nat the Darkfisher here. Now they've given Central Washington another turn. They need to seize these moments. These are percentages that the teams are giving up in these clutch moments.
The Nat could not have killed them here, but Central Washington did not draw the damage that they needed. Utah essentially, again, just gave Central Washington one more turn when they could have won the game.
When you're in tough spots like this, it's really important to calm yourself down and look at how you need to win the game. Central Washington gave up some points, and Utah is now giving up points. These are the kinds of decisions that matter
cards.
at the end.
It is a 1-3 for the Roaring Torch from Washington. I don't know if they have any other burn in the deck. They've
Maybe a
used Frostbolt.
Pyroblast.
Maybe Pyroblast. It's all going to come down to this draw. Is Utah going to be able to close out this game, even though they essentially
Wow.
gave it 2 more turns than it needed, and Washington, again,
and again,
just short.
Here's the thing. Central Washington, had they not used Nat the Darkfisher in the fashion they did, would have had a 50% chance to win the game if Utah made a Jade Idol. There's no reason for Utah to shuffle in the Jade Idols when they have that 1 card left in the deck. That was a missed opportunity, and as a result, Utah is going to force game number 4, and look at these guys.
They look
It's
stressed.
Like, it's happy, it's excited, and it's stressed. amongst the three of them. That was a nail-biter of a game.
I mean, it was what, 3 draws in a row for a Roaring Torch that would have been in 5 cards? Man, admirable. There are so many.
It's about the game steals.
So many.
It's about stealing the games.
Different things that both teams could have done in that game. But regardless, University of Utah has picked up a win with the Jade Druid, heavily favored against the Reno Mage, and the Reno Mage was still just 1 damage off for several turns. Now they need to get a win with that Mage against either Utah's Shaman or the Warlock.
Yeah, and that's where all that armor actually ended up being very important at the end for Utah. They continued to use hero power, it seems, turn after turn, and building that armor made a difference in that game.
Man, that's one of those games that
It's
you...
insane.
It's one of those games that you kind of... I mean, obviously, it's recorded, thankfully. So, like, you kind of want to go back and watch it again to say, okay, if they'd done this, then maybe this would have happened. If they'd done this, then maybe this would have happened. It was just... Honestly, it was a lot of giving your opponent unnecessary outs. And I think if you're in high-pressure situations, if you are... You know, obviously, your mentality's down. You're down 2-0. It's a lot of things that maybe you're likely to make suboptimal plays.
Everything affects your focus to some degree. I've seen absolute blunders when focus is lost.
Yeah.
One of them comes to mind from Trinity Series, where Nyman was piloting a zoo build, and his opponent played a Doomsayer, and Virtus Pro mulled over their decisions, decided that Soulfire on the Doomsayer and attack it with Flame Imp was the way for them to stay in the game. Nyman Soulfired the Doomsayer, and then just
Hit face.
instinctively attacked face with the Flame Imp. Game is gone. And that was 3 professionals working together to get that turn right. And it's just that one slip up. Every moment of Hearthstone, you need to be focused, because one moment like that can change the course.
Well, regardless, Utah now has a chance to, much like their predecessor in the previous match, potentially make a reverse sweep.
Yeah, this matchup tends to be fairly favored for Utah as well, where the mid-range Shaman builds, they scale pretty darn quickly, and they've also teched a Bloodlust into the build. So every single time Utah has a board of minions, that card will threaten to deliver the extra damage. So it's actually really important in this series that Bloodlust was not shown in their earlier games. Central Washington does not have complete knowledge that it's there. They may account for it, but they don't know for certain.
All right, so Washington getting down the Loot Hoarder early.
That's
like
a good
you said, it's good just to cycle through your mage deck very quickly. But the Manatide Totem is going to net quite a bit of value.
Doomsayer's about as good as it gets on this board.
It's a pretty sweet Doomsayer. And actually, Central Washington has a fantastic hand. You can... Obviously, against the mid-range Jade Shaman, you're going to go later than you would have against an aggro Shaman. You have more time to build up your hand, more time to develop threats. Kazakus Manic Soulcaster or Reno Jackson Manic Soulcaster is ideal.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is that with Central Washington, their AoE tends to mean a little bit more in this matchup, where the Jade Druid deck's just drawing more cards. The Jade Shaman build is oftentimes trying to answer the board state, or just get a lot of small minions on board to threaten Flame Tongue and Bloodlust. So Volcanic Potion, Blizzard, much more impactful than they are versus Jade Druid. Yeah, Utah just going to take their time here.
Totally fine.
Wouldn't mind seeing a cycle on the Blood Mage. It's not too important in this matchup.
Utah is a very flexible hand. I mean, they've got the Totem Golem sort of hiding all the way in the left. Obviously, you're not going to play that this turn because the Doomsayer is on board. The Blood Mage cycle would have been fine. I think the spell damage isn't necessarily as important in this matchup as it is in, you know, any more aggressive mirror.
Yeah.
But this is going to give Washington quite a bit of time to just do what they please.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see the Kazakus here because of the Manic Soulcaster. I don't think they necessarily need 2 potions to win this game, but we saw them be very patient with Kazakus in the previous game. So this is very consistent with their game plans in these style of matchups, which is to hope to get the massive value of Bran and Kazakus right together.
Acidic Swamp Ooze is a nice draw. Even the mid-range Jade Shamans are running weapons. So it's always nice to have. How do you feel about the coin Azure Drake here? I personally think I would have liked the Kazakus as well. If you can Manic Soulcaster on the following turn, it opens you up to Soulcaster plus Frostbolt or Soulcaster plus Hero Power.
Yeah, if their game plan is to get with Brand, I mean, their next best play is the Azure Drake for sure. But now they're being presented with just another style of threat, which is that Mana Tide Totem. So forced to take their whole turn here, but pretty good one at that.
Yep, very clean removal for Central Washington here. They get to keep the Drake on board, which is very important because the only way that Utah can essentially deal 4 damage is Spell Power plus Lightning Bolt, which you usually don't see in these lists, or Jade Lightning, which we don't see in their hand. So the Azure Drake can be a bit of a pest.
It's a good point to make, too. And I think pest is the right word. It's not really going to bludgeon Utah with this Azure Drake and hope that the damage
Drake
really
you to
sticks.
death.
It really is just more of a nuisance than anything else. But those are the kinds of plays that really matter in these control matchups, is making your opponent's turn just that much harder.
Well, now Utah has a fair amount of their own options. They can present their own Drake to deal with their opponent's Drake. They have 3, 6, 9 in hand, so the Drake would not put them in threat of burning any cards. The Eye of Blackpaw is the most mana-efficient play, but again, that Drake on board simply allows for relatively easy clears into this Aya.
I think I personally am just slamming the Aya here. It's one of the best ways to accelerate the actual Jade engine. And if your opponent runs over this with the Azure Drake and then uses another card to mop up the golems, I think you're pretty happy with that.
Yeah, whenever your opponent is forced to expend more than one resource into your single card, you're doing okay.
It's usually a win-win. Washington wisely using the spell prior to the attack, trying to preserve this body and continue to be a nuisance. That will finally open up the Maelstrom portals for Utah, a card that's normally fairly dead in this matchup.
Gets to throw down the Mistress of Mixtures as well.
Trust me.
Potentially can help clean up some minions that Utah will play in the coming turns.
Wow, really quick turn here from Utah. This kind of tells you how bad Maelstrom Portal really is in this matchup, too, when they're just like, oh, finally, we had a place to use it.
I can use it for 2 damage on 2 minions. It's perfect. Let's go.
It's never getting better than that.
It worked out really well for Utah. Elven Archer is certainly not the best one drop in the game.
Every damage matters, as we saw in the previous.
Yeah. That is, truer statements have never been spoken.
Central Washington really loves the 5-mana potions as well. And in this matchup, I definitely think that 5 mana offers a lot more potential than it did versus the Jade deck. So no surprise that they 4-winted in that game.
I tend to be really greedy with my Kazakus potions.
Oh,
if I see a situation where I'm getting to turn 10, I'm taking a 10 drop.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, 5 is pretty much the best value you're going to get from the Kazakus potions. But if you can get the 10, it's just so nice.
I remember very early on, 4 damage and draw 2 cards is also a really strong one. So Central Washington comes away with a pretty magic potion there. I remember very early on I saw Dude7597, who actually was a big Tespa player.
Yeah. Playing with University of Washington this year.
All the time. And I was like, this is so strange. And then I would watch him just destroy his opponents with tempo, utilizing the potions. Like when he would brand Kazakus, he would take 2-1 sometimes. I was like, wow, I don't understand this card yet.
I mean, the ones can also be incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
Deal 3 damage, deal 2 to all. Res 1 minion. If that 1 minion is a big minion, then for 1 mana, that's really good.
He was just dealing 3 damage and drawing a card. It was sweet. That card was good. I experimented for a long time, kind of throwing games, just toying around with all the different potion options and seeing what worked where, and eventually ended up landing on 10 mana is really good.
10 mana just
cool.
Makes fun stuff happen. I would almost venture to say that nothing is better than 10 mana, 3 demons in your hand, and you get Cruel the Unshackled. I mean, that's pretty good.
Well, this Flame Strike is looking pretty good as well. And by the Flame Strike, what I mean is the Kazakus version of the Flame Strike here. So that way you can add the hero
Strike.
power. Yeah, Kazakh Strike.
That way you get to clear off the thing from below with your hero power as well.
Yeah, at this point, Central Washington is looking to preserve their life total. And this is just about as good as it gets. They'd like to draw extra cards with the Emperor as well, so this is just brilliant setup for them.
Yep, gets you closer to your own ability to actually kill your opponent. Utah's still at 30 health. Obviously, their hand is incredibly reactive. Not going to be very effective in this matchup unless they can build up another large board, which is going to be tough because they are, there's no card draw, essentially.
Yeah.
So
the kill for them is largely going to be seated in the Jade stuff. So Brand would be a lovely pickup for them at this point. Oh, my gosh. Well,
good call.
Brand Jade Claw. Now, there's a chance they save this for another Jade card, get a double value on it, but this is just looking way too good. Their hand is just dead, and that's really the thing that's, I think, forcing the issue a bit. Lightning Storms, nothing right now. Bloodlust only offers potential if you get white boards. Just makes sense to me.
The Brand Jade Claws interaction, I think, is hilarious. The fact that the weapon has Battle Cry and Brand works with it, it's awesome. I love it.
The thing that I liked most about Jade Claws was how heavily it was criticized by people early on. I'm like, wait a minute. Nizal's First Mate is a minion that makes a weapon, and y'all think that's great. But when a weapon makes a minion, for some reason you're thinking this is...
I think maybe it's in part because if you already have Spirit Claws, and that's potentially a 1-mana 3/3 weapon, then a 2-mana 2/2 just strictly worse. It's just strictly worse.
Yeah, so Utah gonna actually take quite a clever play here and hold on to the Brand Jade Claws, hoping they draw Jade Spirit, and that this board is enough to pull more AoE heat from Central Washington. So if this succeeds, they're looking like they're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, if this were to pull a Flame Strike from Central Washington, then Utah would have the freedom to extend onto the board with essentially any other Jade card that they draw. Unfortunately for Utah, I don't think Central Washington's going to take the bait here. I think a Firelands Portal on the Totem Golem is perfectly fine.
Yeah, their turn is a little bit weird. I'm not really sure what's best here.
Could also see Bully plus Fireball.
Must be a
I don't mind the Emperor and then Arcane Blast and Ping. I mean, their hand is so heavy right now that the discounts mean quite a bit. Ooh, interesting. So they're going to hold on to the Arcane Blast for the...
Archmage Antonidas.
Yeah, so 3, 4, 5, 6 plus 9, 15, 16, 17 damage available for Utah's turn. They're only 5 damage off of actually killing in this spot.
Washington does need to be aware that Utah has Jinyu Water Speaker in the deck. So trying to go for an Archmage Fireball burn plan, Brand Jinyu is a very real option for Utah.
I think that the Fireballs are going to be more intended just for the value battle. Central Washington, I think, can start to piece together some of Utah's range here, where they've been holding on to the left 5 cards or left 6 cards for quite a while up until that Totem Golem. So, the likelihood of multiple hexes, the likelihood of multiple lightning storms, very real things at this point.
I don't hate throwing a lightning storm here.
I don't either. I think it's great. I don't want to throw the hex.
Oh,
that's
absolutely
for sure.
not. You save that.
Don't want to throw the devolve either. Devolve is great in the face of a giant Kazakus potion. And they saw the Manic Soulcaster put another one in the deck earlier. And they're actually just going to throw both lightning storms. And again, that just makes sense. Those are just not good cards in this matchup.
Now, if this board draws a Flame Strike, that's exactly what Utah wants.
Yeah, apologies for that little visual aspect. We're at the mercy of technology. And one day we'll all be at the mercy of technology.
It's a scary thought.
As I welcome our robot overlords.
You would.
I don't want to die to them. They'd probably just kill me anyway. I mean, just look at me.
Good point. I feel like our robot overlords would like Hearthstone, and they would need someone to cast their matches. So hopefully...
Could robot overlords just hack it?
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
Can they unnerf Force of Nature Savage Roar?
Burgly Bully and Flame Strike is a wonderful setup here for Central Washington. Their game plan here is that Utah just, no matter what they do, it's going to feed a coin to them for that Archmage Antonidas. Oh my.
Brand Jade Claws, Jade Claws.
Yeah.
And hit with the first Jade
That
Claws,
is
get the 2 damage. That's pretty gross. It's not even using a spell.
Yeah. That's what's making this so like massive right now. Like this is insane.
I wonder.
You just saw a Flame Strike too. I mean,
Yeah.
you're just not getting better value than that.
I mean, if
you thought
can,
Auctioneers had the best deal anywhere? No, Bran and a pair of Jade Claws has the best deals anywhere.
you could just close out the game in the following turn with Bloodlust. Central Washington has no AoE in hand.
Yeah, that's a win.
Dang.
What to
Go for it. Jade Claws, hit with it. Jade Claws again.
Yeah.
That's a 4, 5, 6, 7.
9 power off the first one. They're not going to...
Oh.
Oh, they don't have the mana for it. We're ridiculous.
They were
Double
overloaded.
Lightning Storm happened,
Yep,
remember?
Yeah, that's 4.
Yeah, I
Would you
wonder if
look
they
at
should have
that?
held, maybe. Huh.
Nope, the Robot Overlords are not going to keep us around. They're going to fire us, Admirable.
Told you, look at me.
They're going to fire us. Shoot. Well, yeah, now Central Washington has an opening here. You can Blood Mage, Arcane Blast, Firelands Portal.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's anything else they could do on this turn.
reflect?
Antonitis,
Yeah, this plays just too
Fireball.
good. It's just too much value.
Antonitis, Fireball, Acidic Swamp Ooze was also an option. And then you could just throw the Arcane Blast to turn it into a Fireball. But
Interesting. I'm curious if they're actually supposed to play the Portal there first. One of the options for Firelands Portal on the drop is called Naga Sea Witch, and Naga Sea Witch makes all of your cards cost 5 mana. So if they intended to blow up that weapon 100% that turn, they needed to have that drop first.
Yeah.
So could have been a minor punish. Not really sure that the weapon would have done all that much in this situation, but a great devolve turn.
yeah, I mean, this worked out very well for Utah. Arcano Smith is a really weak 4-drop. Utah healing back up to 30, but now Central Washington has Archmage, Coin, Fireball. And like you said, they're going to be using these Fireballs mainly to play the value game.
Yeah, they're hoping that after seeing the devolve and after seeing both Lightning Storms, that this Tony is sticking 100%. But that last Hex in hand for Utah may be able to bring them back into this game. The problem is their hand is just dry of resources afterwards. So the hope that they can get a big board position and find a Bloodlust turn and fit the Hex in, a little bit weaker. And Central Washington, very wise here, I think, to use the 4-cost Fireball rather than the 3-cost Fireball. They're not killing that Jinyu anyway, and that single point of damage is very unlikely to mean more than the extra point of mana will later on.
Yeah, absolutely. If they have Inkmaster Salia in their deck, Inkmaster plus the 4-cost Fireball, and then you can 3-cost Fireball afterwards.
Yeah, get the 5/5.
All right, so Utah picks up their Jade Spirit. No more access to Bran, meaning that Jade Spirit will just be a 2/3 and a 7/7, which for 4 mana is certainly, in this case, even better than Flame Wreath Faceless. But it's still going to be tough for them to stick a board here. Obviously, you Hex the Antonitis, play the Jade Spirit, and try to set up for a Bloodlust turn. But with the Reno in Washington's hand, it's going to be tough.
What to do?
What to do, indeed. Yeah, I mean, I think that the Hex on the Antonitis is just...
Oh, that's 100%.
A definite.
That is definitely happening. They're trying to figure out the rest of the turn and the sequencing involved.
There's little time.
Looks
Yeah.
good to me.
Yeah, looks good to me. Nothing wrong with taking your time. Really just figuring out
wrong with
exactly what you want to do.
Good old 7/7.
Good old 7/7. It's a War Golem, friends. It's a Force Tank Max minus the bubble. All right, Washington throwing down that Reno, and once they remove this 7/7,
Look at that extra
Utah
point of mana.
is out of gas. Yeah, that extra point of mana really matters. Able to clear off the 7/7, keep their Twilight Drake around, or Twilight Guardian, excuse me. Different 4-cost dragons. That's a Spirit Claws. 1 mana 3/3 weapon's certainly not bad. Question is, well, actually, yeah, Central Washington's at 30. Utah's going to be playing the trade game here. How they want to do it is the question.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, they have to do something, right? Yeah, this doesn't leave the Jinyu vulnerable to it. Just a hero power. Oh my.
I keep going back to had
That is huge. Wow, they're not going to Alex's turn?
you put your
No
opponent
way.
to 11.
No way.
And you've seen 2 hexes. You Alex.
The Alex here is just so much value. They've seen a Hex, they've seen a Devolve. They know that Bloodlust is there, but if your opponent Bloodlusted trades into your board, woo, you're feeling great about that. You need to contest the next Jade that comes out, and 9-mana cards are inherently very hard to cast. They require setup. Central Washington got the setup. They have the board. They're the ones who are driving the pace right now.
Do you trade the Reno into the Jinyu
No
when you
way.
Alex? You go face?
What can you die to? 3, 4, 5 plus 9 damage from the board. That'd be 15. 3 from the Spirit Claws. That'd be 18. Your opponent would need a 12 damage card afterwards. Not even double Bloodlust would kill you in that spot.
That's a lot of damage, but Utah does not have it.
Central Washington now, I mean, they're 5 damage off winning the game. If they just simply found Ice Block and Freezes, the hero
His
powers
hero
will be
power
enough
5
to get that
times.
done. Yeah, I mean, they have to fear the heal, of course, but the first step is Utah's got to take care of the board.
Yep, Utah has to throw away that Bloodlust. It's been in their hand for, goodness, more than half of the game now on trading into these minions on Washington's board just so they don't die. Bloodlust gives +3. The Jinyu would be at 6. Jade Spirit at 5.
Look at this. Yeah, that's a Bloodlust trade. Bravo to Central Washington. Alex Straza dealt damage and cleared the board.
It's a clean trade, though. And Utah gets actually to keep around the Jade Spirit and now an 8/8.
It's a much better looking position than it was if they had played the Alex, I think, though.
Nice job to Utah hitting face with the Spirit Claws before trading the spell damage. And Washington's looking for 5 damage. That 8/8 is a huge threat, though. It's putting them on a clock.
Brand Courier
There's
gets
the block.
found. So Brand Cabal Courier, 2 opportunities to find damage from this. Now, they do give up a hero power in this instance, which the hero power actually means quite a bit.
Yeah,
but I think you go for it. There's so
Brand
much
Courier,
value.
Firelance Portal, Fireball, Mind Blast, Soulfire. Like, there are so many outs
Fellfire
here.
Potion.
Fellfire Potion. There are so many ways to just close this game out. I could also see Ice Block plus Water Elemental, I guess, if you're...
Now, I'm Brand Courier all day, every day. Again,
There's no way your opponent kills you.
Yeah, I mean, you're not dying to any range of damage here.
Yep, they're going for it. Find that last 5 points of damage. That's...
Resurrect is an interesting option, but so is the Corruption. They could just throw Corruption on the 8/8 and take care of it. They take Fallen Hero for the extra damage. Greater Arcane Missiles represent some damage as well. So Fallen Hero is 2 more points of damage right now.
Could have taken Raza, too, but a little bit late in the game for Raza the Unchanged. There's
Water
6.
Speaker.
Okay.
That is quite the series of draws for Utah. Azure Drake into a nice spell to cast.
Utah can 8/8 into the 2/4, Spirit Claws to the Courier.
Yeah, they do still need to fear the Brand a little bit here, but maybe the extra damage is tough to take right now. But they got to deliver this
I mean,
damage
they're healing.
as well.
They're healing for 6. Greater Arcane Missiles is an element of randomness. There's no guarantee that you are going to be hitting any of those missiles on the targets that you want.
Go 9 to face.
It could.
It's very, very unlikely, but I think that's Central Washington's dream scenario right now.
Yeah. Well, because if Utah Spirit Claws into the Courier, 9 to face would be lethal without the Jinyu Water Speaker. Utah just managing to stay slightly out of reach here.
They're gonna take some extra damage and push 8, so they're looking to close the game early. I mean, they've already seen Reno, they haven't seen Ice Block. Oh my!
Huh.
This is gonna be close.
Oh dear. Utah can Courier into the Drake, Volcanic Potion, Solia, Arcane Missiles.
I don't know if they're looking for the clear here. I mean, they may just be looking for damage. Before you do anything, if you want to make a play like that, I think it's Ink Master first and then evaluate afterwards. Because where the Greater Arcane Missiles falls, I think is going to be the biggest impact to how you make the rest of your decision.
Well, looking at just burn, Fireball is 6, Courier's 2, Hero Power 1, so 6, 7, 8, 9. They are 6 off. 2 missiles hitting face, that's lethal.
I do need to consider just what the damage on board looks like, too. They're actually going to play defensively here.
I think this is fine.
Oh, that's a great potion.
Utah has...
Oh, okay, I just didn't... In my head, I just forgot you could use Fireball on minions because they were just getting so low.
Well, Utah
right.
has 1 draw now to find something, and Jade Spirit's certainly a find. My goodness, by the skin of their teeth. Oh, Babbling Book.
Aeroblast?
You want to cast a spell? I want to cast a spell.
Firelands Portal. Played Fireballed Face. No, it's so close. Fallen Hero is 2.
I don't know. This is...
I don't know. Firelands Portal can give you Leroy, but Leroy runs into the Taunt Totem. Solia Arcane Missiles doesn't do much.
Yeah, Solia Arcane Missiles could prevent you from getting your Ice Block pop this turn.
If...
It's got to hit the Jade Spirit and the Jinyu Otter Speaker.
Well, it has to hit 2 on the Jinyu. Well, if you hero
yeah.
power the Jinyu first, or it could just hit all 3 into the Golem.
Yeah, that could. I mean, they're all fairly low odds, but I think the Ink Master is representing the same thing that Firelands Portal is doing, which is giving you a minion and dealing damage. These are very important shots on this Greater Arcane Missiles. Those are fairly unspectacular shots on those Greater Arcane Missiles.
All right,
so the
Utah
Ice
pops block.
And there's no Reno Jackson left in the deck at that point. So how do they pop it most effectively?
Utah can pop the block, kill off the Babbling Book so that even the Solia can't go face.
You know, rolling that totem early actually means that the block doesn't pop at 1. If they had played the Spirit Claws, they could attack with the 9-2.
That's true.
Attack with Spirit Claws, and then attack with either the Jade Spirit or the Jinyu Water Speaker.
Pop blocks
now
at
in this
2.
situation, the block is getting popped at 2. So if Central Washington can, like, say, freeze the board and then kill this Spell Power Totem, it means they're not necessarily dead on the next turn.
Has Central Washington used Blizzard?
They haven't
This
used
has
Frost
been
Nova
a
or
long
Blizzard.
game.
Frost Nova and Blizzard are still in the deck.
Frost Nova. Yep, they would be able to.
I wonder.
Well, not unless the Babbling Book. Oh, Frost Nova Firelands Portal.
Yeah, so
Man.
they're going to pop the block at 2.
Okay. Central Washington needs something great. Well, even... Nope, that's 11 mana.
Blizzard
There's
gets drawn.
Blizzard.
Oh my gosh.
Blizzard and Water Elemental.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Wait,
goodness.
if you play the Fallen Hero and ping instead, you'd put your opponent to 9, and then you would have 4 damage on board plus the Firelands Portal. So if you have the Water Elemental in play instead, you'd have drop your opponent to 11, 3, 4, plus 5 from the portal. I don't think it's enough that afterwards, is it?
No.
Oh my, what a decision here for Central Washington to make.
If you Fallen Hero,
I think you Fallen
you
Hero.
deal
and Hero
2, they
Power.
go to 10. You have 4 on board. That's 6. Firelands Hero Power is 6. If you play the Elemental, that's 4 on board. Then they go to 8. You don't have 8. There's no way you have 8.
They need to play this Firelands. They need to play the Fallen Hero, I think.
Fallen Hero Hero Power is the 2-turn lethal if Utah does not have spell damage or 1 more damage. They don't have it.
Oh my.
But they rolled Taunt. So even the Fallen Hero Hero Power.
That would have taken care of the Taunt Totem that turn, though.
Frost Nova. They can freeze face. If Utah still now does not draw 1 damage.
Oh my goodness. This is insane.
Wow. Okay.
There's only 2 cards left in Utah's deck, too. I mean, do they have a Jade
What other
Lightning
damage
left?
do they have? They Jade Lightninged Washington's face at one point. I remember that. I don't recall if we've seen a second one.
I mean, this is the play regardless of how you slice it. Utah needs to draw damage or Central
Or
Washington.
spell damage. Nope,
The face is frozen.
Jade Chieftain, is it? It's
That's
enough.
a huge taunt, but it's
Firelands
not
Portal
enough.
plus the Fallen Hero power. That's it.
Unbelievable win at the very end here for Central Washington. They're going to come away with game number 4 and the set.
Wow.
This is still where you got to look at the pressure, though. I commend their ability to look for ways to win the game, but when it came in the clutch, it looked like they were sacrificing small percentages here and there. That's something you cannot afford to do. When it's down to the final decisions in that final stretch, you've got to keep clarity of focus. They gave up a couple of percentage points in this game.
Yeah, I think, honestly, both teams were struggling at times when situations got dire, which we saw a lot of in this series, of very, very close games, of very tough decision-making, that I think there are plays that I would have personally made differently, that I think you would have personally made differently, that I think if they went back and watched, they would also have made differently. But ultimately,
it's a learning
worked out.
experience. You've got to play these situations over and over again to be able to find these kinds of lines. So these are great opportunities to look at and go, man, I could have just done a little bit better in that spot. And that's the difference between sometimes winning and losing a game, is that little tiny thing. But that's wonderful that we got to watch that, because it's an illustration of how important every single decision you make is. 1 point of damage was the difference between winning and losing games twice now in this series.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Well, we have an interview ready with our winners, Central Washington University, taking a 3-1 victory over University of Utah. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, well, congratulations, guys. That was one of the closer series I think I've ever seen. Those games were just absolutely nail biters. So congratulations on that. Tell us a little bit about how you formed your team.
We all went to high school together, so, I mean, we all grew up together, pretty much just playing games together. So we just kind of formed it like that.
Just so happened to all end up going to the same university.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? Nothing better than some friends getting together and playing some Hearthstone. Tell us a little bit about what is the Hearthstone community like at Central Washington University?
It's pretty non-existent here. It's pretty much just like, there's a few other friends that we know that play. So, I mean, we don't really have any clubs here for, like, gaming and stuff. So we just kind of go on our own and play.
Yeah, next time someone gets in a confrontation with you, just invite them inside to play some Hearthstone. I think that's a good way to do it.
Exactly.
So I want to ask you guys about your lineup here. You chose to bring Priest, which a lot of people are viewing as maybe the 5th or the 6th deck in a lineup. What encouraged you guys to bring Priest to this lineup alongside what else you brought?
Yeah, so we tech Defender of Argus in our Dragon Priest to counter a little bit more of aggro decks. So basically, it's just a big aggro counter for us, at least. And it can also stay on par with, like, some Reno decks or some tempo decks, like mid-range.
All right. Well, congratulations again, guys. Is there anything, any last words that you would like to say?
No, it was just a really close series. Probably one of the closer ones that we've had, too. So it was just really well played by them.
I mean, like, I want to say GG, well played, University of Utah, man. Holy moly.
Yeah, those were absolutely just some completely clutch games. Very, very close. Very well played, guys. Congratulations and best of luck moving on in the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, thank
Awesome.
you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, that was Central Washington University 3-1 victory over University of Utah. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we saw today. We saw quite a few exciting games, some exciting matches. Vanderbilt University started off the day 3-0 over Duke. Then Alberta 3-2 over UC Riverside. And finally, Central Washington just took it 3-1 over Utah. So we had every spread of possible outcomes in the book today.
I said I didn't like 3-1s that much, but when the 3-1s are like that,
That was a nail biter of a 3-1.
Bring them on board. Those were some great games that we had in that one, and some great opportunities to look back and learn. But the schedule doesn't end today. We got tomorrow as well.
Absolutely. Looking to tomorrow, we are venturing to the East and North regions, kicking it off with Laval versus Columbia at 5 p.m. Miami U will take on Illinois Tech after that. And then the final game of the day, Michigan versus Ohio State. We have some big name schools coming up tomorrow. And if it is any better than today, if it's even half as good as today, then I am going to have another blast casting tomorrow's matches with you, Admirable. Really, just some incredible stuff today.
Half as good as usually how my Kazakus potions turn out, and
Yeah.
it still wins me a lot of games. So half as good, I'll take that.
Yeah, half as good is pretty good. So we just want to take this moment to, of course, thank our sponsors for the show. Of course, we are powered by Twitch here at the ESL Studios in Burbank. Special thanks to Gunner and Steel Series for making this entire tournament series possible. $160,000 of prize money that these players are playing for can really change a lot of lives. And of course, like we have been, reading some tweets over the last 3 matches today. We will continue doing that tomorrow. Make sure you tweet at Team Tespa with which teams you're supporting, with your questions that you want to ask us, any thoughts that you have, or go on Facebook/Team Tespa. We've given out a couple of Dollar on Flame card backs today, and we would love to continue doing that tomorrow. Some lit Dollar on Flame card backs, as you would say, Admirable.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
All right. Well, are there any final words that you have to say before we let these fine people go?
I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. We'll be back on Tespa Broadcast for quite a number of weeks, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. It's been a fantastic day, a fantastic second week for me on the desk, and I am looking forward to many more weeks to come. So thank you all so much for tuning in today. We will be back tomorrow, twitch.tv/Play Hearthstone, same time, same place. We'll see you then.